Welcome to the Superheroes Everyday podcast. I'm Danny Horn. Thank you for joining us. Superheroes Everyday is a comedy blog about the history of superhero movies, starting with Superman the movie in 1978 and telling the story of how superhero blockbusters became the world's most efficient way to painlessly separate money from the public and then give it to entirely the wrong people. On the blog, I'm writing about the movies in release order, but here on the podcast, we'll be covering pivotal moments in superhero movie history, today addressing the 2007 sequel flameout, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Now, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, so I'm using the Sidfield 3-act structure to break up the episode. This is Act 1 of the movie, and then I'll be releasing Act 2 and Act 3 later on in the week. And now it is time to introduce my guest, Becca Petunia from the Muppet fan site Tough Pigs, the Muppet Quiz Show podcast Hubba Wah, and the Fantastic Four blog, The Daily Fantastic. Hi, Becca.
Hey there, how are you doing, Danny?
I am doing fantastic. I'm so happy to have you here.
Fantastic?
Yes, exactly.
I know about 4 people who are fantastic.
Delighted to have you on the show, not just because we are Muppet fan friends and colleagues, but also because you are something of an expert in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, so this is a thing that I can't believe a lot of people don't know about me, because I feel like in recent years I've kind of made a name for myself online in the fields of like Muppet trivia and a lot of like Muppet queer theory stuff. But like back in the day, you know, starting in 2012, I ran a Tumblr blog called The Daily Fantastic. And the point of The Daily Fantastic was I was going to read every Fantastic Four comic and just take screenshots that I thought were either funny or interesting or cool and post them on Tumblr. The plan was originally 1 screenshot per article, but it quickly kind of evolved into me almost recapping the issues like 1 panel at a time. This stuck around and regularly updated for about 6 years. I covered the first 217 issues of the Fantastic Four, ending my run on Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 42, which was the second half of Fantastic Four 217, because things were just as confusing as the MCU, where it was like, well, if you want to know what happened at the end of WandaVision, you're going to have to watch Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I love the Fantastic Four. And this movie does have 4 people in it, and that, I liked that. I'm a big fan of it when there's 4 people in a movie.
So Fantastic Four, let's talk about the Fantastic Four. Came out in 1961, and the thing that I really love about Fantastic Four, and it's a thing that I think actually these movies get right about it, is that it's a soap opera. Like, the Fantastic Four is the comic that made comics into soap operas, which is the correct answer, because soap operas are long-running serialized narrative with multiple overlapping storylines that are designed to run forever, and where things that happened 10 episodes ago that still matters now. And now all Marvel and DC superhero comics work exactly that way. It's all continuing stories and big event story arcs. And then alongside that, there's these overlapping story threads that you're supposed to follow for decades if you want to actually understand what's going on.
I think that one thing that Fantastic Four kind of introduced to Marvel and to superhero comics in general was the idea that obviously things mattered, like cosmic things and the scrolls from outer space and the Impossible Man and L'Enfant Terrible, who was a villain for a while there. That all was like cool and exciting, and you needed to know, okay, Doctor Doom shows up in issue 5, and then he's going to show up again, and he's going to show up again. But also one thing that Fantastic Four really got right in terms of soap opera was that the characters' relationships always came first.
Yes.
And they were always upset about something. You had so much like drama in Reed and Sue's relationship, and Ben and Johnny's rivalry, and Ben's self-loathing.
Ben always has feelings.
That was something that didn't really exist before this. You know, I've read a lot of like old Superman and Supergirl stuff. I'm a big fan of theirs too. And like, that was never a factor so much.
And they had feelings, but they tended to reset. So there's never like advancement of those relationships in the way that there is in Fantastic Four. 20th Century Fox made the first Fantastic Four movie in 2005, and then there was the sequel in 2007. And this was a really busy and kind of scattered period for superhero movies. The X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies came out in the early 2000s and showed that it was possible to make good superhero movies that did well out of characters that were not necessarily icons in the way that Superman and Batman were. So there was kind of this gold rush in the mid 2000s where Sony and Warner Brothers and Columbia, 20th Century Fox and Universal and New Line, they were all trying to make big advanced superhero movies at the same time. And some of them really worked and some of them really did not. And Fantastic Four in 2005 did okay, not great. It was number 13 for the year and made $155 million. And then the sequel did not do as well as that. Number 18 for the year, making $132 million. Obviously well below Spider-Man 3 that year, which was the number 1 movie and made $337 million. So they stopped trying to make Fantastic Four movies for a little while. As for the critics, the 2005 movie has 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. And by 2007, they were a little kinder. So Rise of the Silver Surfer has 37%, which I do not believe that it deserves.
Yeah, I would double the first one to a comfortable 40 at least.
Yeah. People generally, though, they did not like really either of these movies is what happened. And that is going to be important to remember as we delve into the mysteries of this movie.
I vividly remember, these being ragged on. It was like a running gag, how bad these were.
And it was basically all in relationship to the other things that were coming out that were really exciting. And honestly, people ragged even on Spider-Man 3, and that was the number 1 movie. Let's get into Act 1. It begins with some planet exploding. When the movie begins, obviously we're out in space, which is the only way to start a movie. And we see a planet that's out there somewhere, and as we're looking at it, something bad happens to it. I am not exactly sure what, but it seems very extremely bad.
Weirdly, it looks fairly similar what happens to that planet as what Uatu the Watcher describes happening to planets that are eaten by Galactus in, I think it's Fantastic Four issue 47.
I thought they got eaten like chomp. It goes in my mouth and I swallow it.
No, at least...
Is that not the case? Have I misunderstood Galactus all this time?
Yeah, so I mean, again, at least early, and again, the early Fantastic Four is what I'm an expert in. In the comics, Galactus just absorbs the energy from the planets. Oh. And he builds a machine. What happens is he travels from planet to planet, lands, builds a machine that boils the oceans, and then causes the planet to split apart with fiery red cracks, and he absorbs the energy through his machine into his Galactus spaceship.
Okay. All right. I did not know that at all.
He's big, but he isn't big enough to put the Earth in his mouth.
Yeah.
Which is something that this movie definitely changes.
But this is so, gosh, you just explained so many things for me, which I appreciate, including to some extent what the hell is happening in a lot of this movie, because I didn't understand the holes before this, and now...
Well, the holes don't make sense. No. When we get to the holes...
At least they make a little more sense to me now than they did before. But
they don't.
Yeah, no, the holes are still ridiculous. All right, that's good to know. Now, Cosmic Marvel is something I have not spent a lot of my time dealing with. If it comes up in a movie, I'll pay attention to it because I don't have a choice. But when I read comics, that is not the area that I can go to. But I believe that you have kind of a stronger grounding in this bullshit. What can you tell the nice people about the Cosmic Marvel material?
Space is very weird in Marvel, and it really is, you're making it up as you go along. Cosmic Marvel is kind of like if Calvin Ball had the stakes of religion. Where it's very clearly we are just saying whatever shit interests us and whatever shit seems cool at the time, but treated with the gravitas of the Old Testament. So it is shit Galactus builds a machine that boils the oceans and sucks the life out of an octopus. We see that happening.
But it's big stuff. It's always big stuff.
But it's always treated as being, this deep and significant thing.
Yeah.
And that can make it really hard to read.
This is a strange day on the planet Earth because what we see starting out, a little Japanese fishing boat out doing their job. They see something flash by in the sky. One of the fishermen falls out of the boat, and then he's just standing there because the sea has turned solid.
Not a power of the Silver Surfer. Continue.
Then we're in Egypt. Now, one thing that I love about superhero movies is they can't help screwing around with the tourist attractions, because that's how you get people's attention. It's for a superhero movie, it's like clearing your throat to show damage to a tourist attraction. There are many of them. This movie actually has 4 of them, which I think is amazing. So this is the first one, that there's some tourists who are looking at the Sphinx and something flashes by and suddenly there's snow and the Sphinx and nearby pyramids are all covered with ice.
Not really a power of the Silver Surfers. Continue.
And then we go to Los Angeles where something goes by and then all the lights go out. I'm cueing you.
The Silver Surfer could probably do that.
All right. So that's 1 out of 3 for the Silver Surfer. Now we are in a crowded airport with lots of people waiting around. And there, wouldn't you know, the entire cast of the Fantastic Four movie.
They're there.
So, yes. So there's Reed Richards, known to the public as Mr. Fantastic. There is Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. There's Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, and Ben Grimm, the Thing. And like super famous people always do, they're kind of just standing around in the basic part of the airport, and they're about to get on a plane like nobody's, which I think is actually the least realistic thing about this movie.
Well, does it? There's like some dialogue where it's like, yeah, well, we made a mistake and we don't have room for you in first class. They shouldn't even be in first class.
No, yeah, they are.
They should be like Taylor Swift taking their private jet from state to state.
Exactly. Let's talk about Reed and Sue.
Okay, so I don't mind this actor who plays Reed, whose name I forget.
I remember it, but I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think he's kind of a little weird and a little awkward and never quite feels like he knows what he's doing. But you know what? I buy that for Reed.
Yeah.
He is... Listen, I think he's good looking. I don't know if you don't.
I'm not that into him.
I mean, look, Chris Evans is better looking.
Yeah. I find him kind of blank. He's sort of basic.
Yeah. He's fine. Again, I think if he had better material and maybe a better director than good old Timothy Story,
that could have done something.
It could have done something. Jessica Alba makes me like white hot with rage.
Excellent. Tell me about that.
So first of all, I rewatched the first one too.
Mm-hmm.
Her hair has gotten significantly worse over the past 2 years.
Oh, no.
Where now you can so clearly see that it's a wig.
Yeah.
There's parts where it's such a bad wig that it looks like a helmet. She never knows what to do with the material.
No.
The movie will take any excuse it can to just make her look sexy.
Yes, she is presented to us in mint condition in every shot. Like, no matter what is going on, her outfit is always very fashionable and always different. Her makeup's great. She is never off the clock.
The first one is worse in that it has multiple opportunities for her to strip.
Yes.
This one has at least one,
Just
and
one,
they attempt to like lampshade it by being like, why does this always happen to me? And it's like,
yep.
Yeah, because it's what director Tim Story wants. I don't know.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he actually, Tim Story apparently bullied her on the set. I actually have a quote from an interview that she did with Elle in 2010 when she said that working on this movie actually made her want to stop acting, which is a concept that I have mixed feelings about. But what happened to her on set really sounds awful. Sue Storms traditionally are not treated well on movie sets. So here's the quote from Jessica Alba. I remember when I was dying in Silver Surfer, and the director was like, it looks too real. Can you be prettier when you cry? Cry pretty, Jessica. Which I kind of love. And he told her, don't do that thing with your face. Just make it flat. We can CGI the tears in. And that tells you a whole bunch of things about Tim Story all at once.
We can CGI the tears in is like very foreboding for what really keeps happening to these Marvel movies.
I have to say, just as a phrase, I love cry pretty as an instruction that you give to somebody.
Yeah, I buy that part of it is just, again, like with Reed, where a better director might have been able to give her better directions than cry pretty.
Yeah.
But
But also does she do science in this movie? Does Sue actually do any science?
She's established as she is not a scientist in the original comics because they were written in the 60s.
Right.
That's something that they toyed around with later. She is definitely established to be a scientist in Fantastic Four 1, the movie that came out 2 years earlier.
Yeah. She has other concerns here.
They just don't give her anything to do in this, really. Because, I was like clocking it. She basically uses her superpowers twice.
Yep.
In Act 1 of this movie.
Yep.
And one of the times is to remove a zit.
That is true. Yeah, she's a girl in this movie. That is her big role, is to be the girl. And especially in Act 1, that is a lot of her concerns. I think this is kind of consistent with the original comics, unfortunately.
Rereading the issues last night of this, she does spend a lot of time being like, oh, I wish you would start thinking about me and stop thinking about science and test tubes.
Well, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were absolutely fascinated by 4 things that they knew nothing about: fire, magnetism, blindness, and women. Those were the 4 great mysteries of life that they just can't get their heads around, and they're going to keep writing comics about those things until they figure it out.
But I expect more from a studio motion picture in 2007.
Yes, for sure. It feels like a way longer time ago. Like, based on this movie, you would think it was way longer ago than just 15, 16 years. So there's the wedding is the big problem. Like, the first third of this film is absolutely obsessed with the minutia of Reed and Sue's wedding. It has apparently been canceled 3 times. I'm watching Becca's expression. It's been canceled because they're superheroes and things come up, and so now they are determined to have a big, splashy, painfully traditional wedding. And there is no plot point, however interesting it might be, which is going to keep them away from the most boring wedding ever filmed.
There's so many. I don't want to... You planted so many seeds for discussion just there. This wedding winds up being terrible. They spend 30 minutes getting to it, and then there's nothing even interesting at the wedding. It's unclear. The wedding always feels like it's both happening in a second and happening a year away.
Oh, because they're still planning for china patterns and flowers and stuff.
They're planning after guests arrive. Guests have arrived, and Johnny and Sue are still talking about what they're gonna do at the wedding.
We left these people in the airport. They still got to fly home, and apparently they have to fly coach, which obviously for famous people would be impossible. I have no idea why they do this sequence. And it kind of lets you know right away they really don't know what to do with Act 1. It only lasts for 3 minutes. It feels like eternity. The best thing is they put Ben in the middle seat, and he's squashing people in his seat. And then Reed stretches to put his bag in the overhead bin that's across the aisles, and blocking a woman who's there from putting her bag up because he's a superhero, and that is what you do. And my question is whose fantasy was this? It feels like somebody involved in the production just has to fly a lot, and it really bothers them. And this is the only thing they can think of.
I guess it tells the audience that the Human Torch can fly because he flies.
That is helpful.
I don't know. I could think of other ways to write that plot point into a movie.
Yeah, pretty sure. Especially when you're making a superhero movie where, I don't know, sometimes they start out with some kind of action as opposed to waiting online.
That was something too. It isn't until the end of Act 1 that that any of the characters use their superpowers to do super heroics.
Yeah, they are just they have them. You know about them. But yeah, no. So we're just going to talk about wedding plans for the next half hour. Sue, this is once they get home, Sue wants to talk and Reed is busy, and she's upset with that because she has a fitting and she has musicians. Like you said, it's way late in the day for her to be figuring this stuff out. They have a real fancy lab now. In the first movie was all about what a failure Reed was and how they were broke. He actually did not do any successful science at all in the entire first movie. The only thing that ever worked was when Victor went and fixed it and did something. In this movie, Reed is unbelievably successful. So here he is figuring stuff out and tapping on things and looking at screens. So Reed is investigating what are these weird happenings that are going on around the world. And Johnny does not want to talk about that. What Johnny wants to talk about is Reed's bachelor party. And then we go to Latveria with Doctor Doom. Can you tell me something about Doctor Doom?
In this movie or in the comics?
Anything you like. And the reason why I'm asking is because they do not really establish Doctor Doom at all. He is unbelievably underutilized.
Well, he really, and we can get into this when we start getting to his parts of the plot.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get too far ahead. He shouldn't be in this movie. Doom is one of the greatest comic villains of all time.
I agree.
And what makes him so good in the comics is he is just the most ridiculous villain you can imagine. He is a brilliant scientist and an evil dictator and a wizard.
Right.
Who wears a suit of armor and has a million robots.
And he always talks in that kind of super heightened Marvel, like Dr. Octopus way. He doesn't ever talk.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imagine him, Dr. Doom, like going out to a restaurant and asking for the bill would just not work at all. Because it's always like that I am the greatest and this is the most important sentence anyone's ever said.
But what makes Doom so good is the comic never treats that with a kind of like winky-winkiness.
Mm-hmm.
He is an evil dictator who's a wizard and a mad scientist and has a lot of robots.
And that is real and that is important.
And that's how it's always treated. And I love that it's treated that way. And the thing is, if you're reading a Doom plot, Doom, it actually always is like exciting to figure out how the characters are going to outsmart Doom. Because he is so good at everything. It's always like a sign that like we have hit as high as the stakes can get, at least in the Fantastic Four. This version of Doom shows why Doom is always going to be a problem for motion pictures and always has been. Because they try to figure out like how would this character be in the real world?
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, the first movie makes him like a tech billionaire. And that's, I think, honestly, a decent, if you're gonna have to do like a real world thing, that's a decent version. But at the same time, I don't know, he needs to be an evil dictator, wizard, mad scientist, or he doesn't feel like Doom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here he's just kind of like a mean science man. Like Reed is the nice science man and Victor is the mean science man.
Also, he's got like this whiny, reedy voice, no pun intended, but like he sounds like me. And like, that's not really what Doom should sound like.
No, he needs to have a very big voice and a very big presence in the film, which he does not have. He basically skulks. What he's doing right now is basically skulking. There are several skulking scenes, which, like, as you say, like, does not really establish him as the important person that he actually is supposed to be. Then there's the bachelor party. And so now we ought to talk about Johnny. This is Chris Evans, who in these films is, you know, kind of an immature Johnny Storm. He really likes being famous. He really likes hot girls. And he's a bit toned down. So Johnny in the 2005 film, in his first scene, he's riding a motorcycle. There is loud rock music. He's kissing a hot woman who is currently driving a vintage convertible. So he's driving the motorcycle. She's driving the convertible down the highway real fast. They kiss. And then he adjusts his sunglasses and he drives away. And that's the scene. And then he snowboards, and later in the movie, he goes to the X Games and does X Games. He's a Ninja Turtle. Like, he is everything that was cool. Like, they did a focus group of guys 18 to 40 in 2005 and found out everything that they thought was cool, and then they put it in a movie and they called it Johnny Storm. So Johnny's a lot more toned down in this movie. And I think it's because they figure, and this is a weird thing about the movie, is I think they figure you've already seen the first one. And I'm not sure how they come to that conclusion.
They must have, because again, like you said, you have no idea who Doom is or even what Latveria is unless you've seen the first one.
Yeah. And all of the wedding stuff is basically based on this idea that we have grown to love these characters over time. And I can't imagine where they got that idea. Like, they are not reading the room, as in the reaction to their last movie. I'm looking at them like, did you not get that 27% on Rotten Tomatoes means that we're not that into you? So they've made this movie that's based on the idea that we just adore these characters and they don't have to introduce them They have nothing to prove to earn our interest and affection, and that is not the case.
You know who I don't adore?
Who do you not adore?
Johnny Storm in either of these movies.
Tell me about it.
I mean, listen, Chris Evans,
Mm-hmm.
a very good-looking man.
Yes, he is.
And they spend a lot of time making sure that he has his shirt off. Admittedly, more time in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that he has his shirt off.
They make a big deal about it here. We'll get to that.
They want you to know that sometimes he isn't wearing a shirt, and he's very attractive.
Yes.
One thing I think a lot of writers, and this is true in the comics too, a lot of the writers get Johnny wrong. Because Johnny is hot-headed, loves cars and girls, and has an ego.
Yes.
But Johnny Storm also needs to be likable. And Johnny Storm wants to be the center of attention often because he's either dealing with disappointment somewhere else in his life, and he's like reaching out in this way. He has an on-again, off-again, on-again relationship with Dory Evans for a while. Then he dates Crystal, but Crystal keeps vanishing into the ether. Right. And like he's sad about that, so he's like driving cars and being on fire to like cope. Or he's doing that because he genuinely wants to help his teammates.
Right.
And is sort of like hogging the spotlight in a sense of like, I am going to be the one who does this. But this needs to be almost like a front for something else. I think they try to do that a little in this movie, but he's also just annoying. Like, maybe it's because I'm, you know, a trans woman, but I find this level of like masculine posturing to be so annoying. Like, it's everything that I didn't want to be. Thank you very much. Like,
and especially here in this bachelor party, where they're just doing a very traditional sexist bachelor party, where you've hired women to come in, pretty women, to come in and pay attention to you and laugh at your jokes, which is just awful.
But at the same time, so Sue is going to come in and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I can't believe you're doing this. At the same time, this bachelor party is surprisingly tame, I guess because it has to be in a PG-13 movie. But Sue reacts as if she's caught her husband, like, having sex with another woman.
Yeah.
He is just fully clothed dancing next to a fully clothed woman.
Let's talk about that dance, because I feel like when I have talked to people about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, like, the thing that comes up is...
This is all I remembered about the movie.
Reed's dad dance. I don't even know, for folks who haven't seen it, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like if he did a rap. Like if the white guy did a rap. That is the feeling, the cringy feeling that you get when you see him try to dance. And he doesn't really even do very much that's like in rhythm with anything. He just does kind of Mr. Fantastic tricks, and not good ones, where he like can reach out his leg really far and bring it back.
He's doing the hokey pokey, extreme hokey pokey.
Yeah, it's not even sexy. It's nothing. I would have loved to see like the actual sexy version of this dance, just because it would have been funny. So this is just embarrassing.
Here's a quick aside. What do you think about the stretching effects?
It didn't occur to me that there was a problem with them. Are you saying that there was a problem?
I think they're fine. I've heard people complaining, you know, when the Ms. Marvel show was coming out, people were like, we can't make her powers stretching because it looks so creepy, like in the Fantastic Four movie. And I was like, I don't know, it kind of looks creepy in the Fantastic Four movie, but in the sense that it's a creepy thing to do.
I think it's in this scene, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. In the bachelor party, like the dance that he does just looks awful.
They do a lot of like fun, like cartoony things where he like will crash into things and like his face will be squished. That I really like. Yeah,
those I think are okay. That is good, and definitely when he's squashed by the thing in a wall, I think that totally works. And when he's doing action stuff, I think it works. I think it's probably in the bachelor party where people have a hard time with it.
And to be fair, as you said, that's all anyone remembers about this movie somehow, is a fairly boring bachelor party.
And then here comes Sue walking into the room with a mean general, General Hager, and a very pretty young female captain whose name is Captain Frankie Ray.
She is a character in the comics.
Captain Ray?
Well, she's not a captain.
Oh, okay. Who is she in the comics?
Frankie Ray. So here's some things you need to know about Frankie Ray. She has the power to control fire.
Oh, okay.
But her father didn't want her to know that she had the power to control fire. So when she was a
Okay.
child, her dad
Mhm.
hypnotized her. So she would always be afraid of fire.
All right.
She dated the Human Torch for a while, and he helped her break her fear of fire. And then she became a fire-themed superhero, and would eventually, you will never guess where she went after that.
Tell me.
Well, Galactus doesn't have the Silver Surfer, right?
Yeah.
Frankie becomes the next herald of Galactus.
Really?
And it is Frankie Ray's job to fly using her firepower from planet to planet, finding planets for Galactus to consume. None of this is addressed in this movie.
That is a 180-degree turn from what happens in this movie. That's hilarious.
They totally just wanted a list of Johnny love interests, and they thought that Frankie Reyes was a cooler name than Dory Evans
Right.
or Crystal Amalaquin.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay. Yeah, we'll get into her in just a second.
But yeah, I had to just say that because, again, it's
No,
so
I
bizarre.
know that was so important. Yes. I am so glad to know that because it is extremely important. They go into a kitchen and they do a briefing. And the general has kind of like a bad history with Reed, which I have to admit I couldn't care less about.
Oh, Danny, you didn't mention who plays the general.
Is it Andre Brower?
It sure is Andre Brower.
Tell me why that's exciting.
He plays Captain Ray Holt on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, okay. I am not a Brooklyn Nine-Nine watcher. That talent is not being used. There are many wasted talents in this movie, and that talent is definitely wasted here. He's just the guy who has to work with Reed because there's important stuff going on, but he just doesn't like him.
But he's like the fifth lead of the movie.
I know.
He has more to do than the Silver Surfer or Doctor Doom.
Yeah, well, he's definitely on screen for longer than that. But mostly what he does is just grump at Reed for a while. Here in the kitchen, this is where we get plot information incoming. There have been occurrences and anomalies around the world, as we saw at the very beginning. The spy satellite pics show nothing in particular, but here's where we find out that there are huge, terrifying holes which are appearing around the world, which I am now thinking is maybe where Galactus puts his fingers when he uses Earth as a bowling ball.
Your guess is as good as mine, and I read 217 issues of this shit.
Is there any reason why there are these holes? They
Not
treat
explained.
it like they're super, super important in the movie, and I have no idea why or what it has to do with anything. I think the only reason why they're there is just to give a location where the Silver Surfer is going to show up so that they can have encounters with the Silver Surfer.
Couldn't you just have them tracking the weird weather anomalies that they've decided is part of the Silver Surfer's deal?
I could not say. Reed says that he can build a sensor to track this, but he can't because he's getting married. And then Sue Storm looks at him like he's just made her entire life perfect.
Danny, this is how women are,
I know, I understand that.
We can't have our fiancés doing science when they should be.
Yeah, you actually have a fiance right now.
I do, yeah. And anytime my fiancé isn't planning our wedding, I'm yelling at them.
You're furious. You are furious. Yeah.
If they do anything else.
Even if it threatens the world. Well, the thing is that they are planning this wedding the day before the wedding.
Yes!
And so Reed really does need to kind of be on point about this. Okay, so then is the real, the first real terrible Captain Frankie Ray encounter, because they go out on the sidewalk and they're gonna now leave this bar where the bachelor party was. And Johnny tries hitting on Frankie Ray because she's very, very pretty. And he does it just in the worst. So he's have you ever done any professional modeling? Which is the worst thing. She gives the correct answer. Not interested. Because you've got an amazing complexion. Not interested. She could not be more clear. And then she gets in the car and she drives away. And what that means is now there is a sub-story in the movie about the Ice Queen, who starts out not period interested period, and then gradually warms to him. And in the end, I'm going to leave that as a surprise for people at the end, but the end is very extremely disappointing as a conclusion to this character.
Oh God, I forgot about the end until you just said that.
It's dark. It is dark, dark, dark. Yeah, we'll get there.
Like you said, 2007 feels so long ago.
It really does.
Like, Johnny repeatedly sexually harasses a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Would not be a subplot that we have for our main hero.
It definitely did not age well. But actually, you know what? I'm saying it didn't age well, but in 2007 it was disgusting too. It's not like
no. I mean, again,
we
I
didn't.
Was there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, we didn't all. I just realized that what I was saying was like all of a sudden that has turned out to be a problem.
Yeah.
No, that was a goddamn problem in 2007 as well, just as much. So yeah, no, it's really inappropriate and terrible. Reed and Sue have a little like post-party sitcom moment where he repeats once again that the most important thing is the wedding. They've got a little routine about the bachelorette party. This is now just straight up sitcom bland wedding storyline. Ben's doing science stuff on the roof. This is also like repetitive and boring. The one funny thing about this scene is that Reed is saying like, oh, we're keeping this quiet so Sue doesn't find out I'm working on this. And it's like, you all live in the same house. And this, I believe that he is on the roof at the location where they're going to have the wedding. Sue should be in and out of this space constantly.
Where did they have the wedding?
I don't. It's so hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so hard. I find myself asking questions like that, and then I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? Why am I taking this wedding thing seriously? So the public is very excited, and we see every news station and all the newspapers are talking about him. There's cosplaying fans outside. Today is the day. Oh, Becca, congratulations. We've reached the day of the wedding in the movie. We're all super excited about this. Super basic wedding setup. There's a cute cake topper, and besides that, there is just nothing unusual about this wedding at all. Alicia's here. Alicia shows up, Ben's hot girlfriend, super hot girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Sue is worried that her life is always going to be a circus, which it is. She really doesn't like being famous, and it seems like what she wants is to be a suburban stay-at-home mom. Alicia says, do you love Reed? And Sue says, more than I've ever loved anyone. And Alicia says, then you have nothing to worry about. And that's just my example of how unbelievably bland this dialogue is. Nothing is a surprise through this whole thing. And then they do the same thing with Reed and Ben, where he's like, you're getting married in an hour. And Reed's like, oh, I'm getting married. And gets all like weak at the knees.
This is so long.
It goes on and on and on. Yeah.
I mean, and let me just point out quickly, when Reed and Sue get married in the comics, Dr. Doom, who is furious at the Fantastic Four because in a previous issue, the Thing broke both of his hands, mm-hmm. Dr. Doom builds robot duplicates of every villain the Fantastic Four ever fought, who all crash the wedding one at a time. It's more interesting.
Wouldn't that have been great for this? We're 25 minutes into this movie. They are still pretending that this wedding matters. And it's all based on this idea that we have grown to know and love these characters over many years.
Well, Danny, the worst part about grow and love these characters over the year is where Johnny like pats her on the back and goes like, Dad would have been proud.
Yeah.
And it's like,
right.
Wait, their dad is dead? That's right. Something that I'm supposed to know?
Why is Dad involved? Yeah, exactly. Super boring wedding stuff. Silver Surfer comes by. New York landfall is imminent. And really, we finally get the first action scene, which is Johnny bursting into flame and following. Are we clear on what the Silver Surfer is doing here right now, besides interrupting the wedding?
He's being there.
He's just being there. Okay. And so, but it's very important because Johnny has to chase him.
Yes.
And since we've decided that has to happen at the wedding, then the Surfer shows up at the wedding. He is a silver Mercury man on a surfboard going very fast. He can zip through stuff as if it's not theirs. And he goes through the Chrysler building, which is tourist attraction number 2 as we go on our tour. And then all of a sudden they're in Washington to mess with the Washington Monument. which is tourist attraction number 3. They can't keep their hands off these monuments. The surfer grabs Johnny and holds him by the neck and takes him up into orbit for some reason. And Johnny is sad about that, and he gets all cold. And then the surfer like throws him back down to Earth, and he lands in the desert and burns up some stuff in a tent that does not belong to him. And that is our big action sequence.
I like the Silver Surfer in this movie. I think that they do an okay job making him look cool, considering it's 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Jones, who does the body work for him, has an imposing kind of lanky figure.
I agree. I think he looks great.
Because he is kind of supposed to look alien and artificial, so I don't care that the metal doesn't look realistic.
Yeah.
But like
that never occurred to me that was supposed to look realistic.
This also just doesn't make any sense. And I can't imagine watching this if I hadn't read like every appearance of the Silver Surfer.
Why doesn't this make sense? Like this specifically, the chase that Johnny does?
What is, like you said, like why is the Silver Surfer here?
Right.
What is going on? And I get that like they're building suspense for when the characters figure it out, but they never even really figure it out.
Yeah, that is true. Really what this is for is just because they have this plot point for Johnny that they need to establish, which is that he has touched the Silver Surfer and it has done something weird to him. The score so far, Johnny Storm 0, Silver Surfer 1, and that is the end of Act 1 of Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. I will be releasing Act 2 later this week, and here's what's coming up. We have some important man talk to get through. The men are getting together to talk things over. I don't know why in 2007 they have not yet figured out how to make women active participants.
Yes, the ancient Israelites, they were always surfing. What was Moses doing but making 2 sick waves for them to shred?
Chris Evans, even bigger in a super tight t-shirt with a new desktop theme. Like, I could look at that some more if they wanted me to. I'm a little disappointed it only lasts as long as it lasts.
Which is Doom's thing in this movie series, is that he has electrical powers, like he's Black Lightning or Pikachu or something.
Yeah, because who even cares about Reed and Sue? God, wouldn't that have been great in this movie if Reed and Sue didn't appear? What a better movie this would have been. Oh my god. Don't even get me thinking about that. All right, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
I will meet you back here for Act 2 of Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer on the Superheroes Everyday podcast. Thanks for listening.
Dad would be proud.
Yeah.